In 2054, the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C., launched Precrime, a task team to prevent homicides before they occur. 3 psychologically altered individuals known as precogs, who can see into the future, are used to predict crimes. When the precogs detect a murder in the near future, they create 2 wooden balls, one with the perpetrator's name, and the other with the victim's name on it. The disadvantage of this technique is that the precogs cannot pinpoint the site of the crime. Thus the police must assume the place based on the precog's visions. When the culprit is apprehended, authorities utilize a halo, a device placed around the criminal's head, immobilizing them. So these people are put in an electrically induced coma. The story begins as one day a precog named Agatha encounters visions of impending murder. The chief, John Anderton, is informed by his partner Fletcher about this soon-to-occur double homicide involving a husband named Howard, his wife, and her boyfriend. John analyzes the images taken from Agatha's visions on a futuristic computer screen to confirm the location of the crime. They now have exactly 10 minutes until the murder takes place. On the other hand, the suspect named Howard is on his way to work when he notices someone outside his house, but his wife ignores his suspicion, and he pretends to leave for work. However, he stays nearby to keep an eye on the house as he suspects his wife of infidelity. The man he saw earlier enters their house. Howard also enters the house, and he can hear wife and her lover together, which enrages him, and he grabs scissors to murder both his wife and her lover. However, before he can succeed, he is caught by the police, who arrive on time thanks to the precogs. Whereas his wife and her lover are both sent to be treated by the trauma response team. Danny Whitwer, a Justice Department official, is assigned to audit the Precrime system. Even though the culprit has been apprehended, visions of the crime continue to play on the monitors. Danny asks Fletcher about it, and he reveals that precogs often get these echo images that go through their brains even after they have prevented a crime. These recurring visions are then eliminated from the system. In the evening, John walks and finds Department of Public Safety advertisements flashing around the city. John buys some drugs from a man while doing his routine running around the neighborhood. Following that, John returns home and consumes the hallucinogenic substance. He views old footage of his ex-wife, Laura, and their son, who went missing at a public swimming pool years ago. Danny begins his official visit to Precrime headquarters the next day. He notes that determining criminal intent is difficult and wonders if the precogs sense the killer's future deeds or their internal thoughts. He is told that precogs determine what they will do, not what they want to do, so unless it is certain someone will commit a crime, no action is taken against them. John brings Danny into the facility, where the precogs are kept semi-conscious in a pool of amniotic fluid and hooked to the Precrime computer network. Despite the city's low murder rate, Danny believes the Precrime system is untrustworthy. Agatha gets an echo vision of a woman named and Lively being murdered in a swimming pool after Danny leaves. John goes to the containment, a facility where many immobilized criminals are housed, and with the assistance of Supervisor Gideon, he tracks down the murderer of Lively. However, the murderer had replaced his eyes with someone else's to avoid detection by the identification sensors, so his identity remains unclear. John requests that Gideon show him Agatha's visions, but they cannot locate the file. They can only find the provisions of the other 2 precogs. They also uncover that there is no information about the victim and Lively. They only knew she was a single mother, a heroin addict, and sought therapy for her addiction at a recovery center. John sends his findings to the Precrime director, Lamar Burgess, who proposes that the inquiry be terminated. However, John is dedicated to protecting the country from crime and wishes to continue his inquiry. Meanwhile, Danny enters John's house to look for evidence that could implicate John. Danny discovers a picture of Laura and his missing son on John's desk. He also finds a small container of heroin, which leads him to suspect John of illegal drug use. When John returns to his workplace, a coworker informs him of an impending murder with Leo Crow as the targeted victim. As John investigates the identity of the perpetrator, he is astounded to learn that he is the leading suspect. He plots his getaway before everyone realizes he'll be a killer, but is stopped by Danny in the lift. He is skeptical about Danny, who he suspects is tampering with him. He points his gun at Danny thinking he is here to catch him, but Danny reveals that he has found out about his use of drugs, and if this gets out he will be suspended. John runs out of the department when he gets out of the lift. Soon the police learn about the impending murder, and now John is a wanted criminal. The Precrime team is trying to apprehend him. He barely escapes, but they catch him again, and this time he seeks safety at an automated vehicle assembly plant, where he flees in a recently manufactured car. Afterwards, John sees Dr. Iris Heinemann, who tells him that the three precogs do not necessarily have the same future visions. Nonetheless, they are quite similar. The report based on the majority of the two perspectives is often accepted, while the one that differs is ignored. John must decide whether he has a minority report that exposes a different truth to prove his innocence. When John wonders which precog would provide a minority report, the doctor says Agatha is the most gifted of the three. After that, John has an eye transplant to replace his eyes with someone else's. He instructs the physician before the procedure to return his original eyes to him, so that he can enter the police station and look for Agatha's minority report. Following the transplant, the doctor leaves John to rest and sets a timer, instructing him not to remove the bandage until the alarm sounds. The doctor also gives John a brief paralyzing enzyme that, when applied beneath his chin, causes his face to become unrecognizable, resembling that of an elderly man. John's face will return to normal after 30 minutes. In the meantime, Danny tracks down Laura and conducts an undercover investigation into John's use of illegal hallucinogenic drugs. Danny learns from Laura that everything started when John's child went missing. Danny believes that their divorce was caused by John's obsession with his career and lack of attention to his wife, but Laura confesses that she left him because she saw her son's face in him. The precrime team, on the other hand, initiates a search for John utilizing spider-like robots equipped with eye scanners. One of the robots eventually scans John's unrecognizable iris, showing the effectiveness of the eye transplant. John visits the police station after using the paralytic enzyme to make his face unrecognizable. When John enters the precog's chamber and brings Agatha with him, the system malfunctions. He then brings Agatha to a hacker, who uploads her vision of the murder of Leo Crow. Regrettably, John realizes that the vision is identical to the one he previously witnessed, and he is still missing a minority report. No minority report indicates that all of the precogs have agreed on the same future vision, and no force can prevent John from becoming a murderer. Agatha experiences a seizure, and remembers and Lively's death fills her head. The hacker warns John that the precrime police are closing in, but they avoid capture thanks to Agatha's foresight. When John arrives at Leo Crow's house, he realizes that Crow is absent. In Leo's home, John discovers images of many children, including his missing son. In his wrath, John intends to kill Leo, whom he blames for his son's absence. When Leo comes, John confronts him and demands a confession, while Agatha begs him not to kill him. Suddenly, John decides not to kill Leo and informs him that he is being arrested and has the right to defend himself in court. Leo Crow is taken aback by John's decision not to murder him. He begs John to kill him, claiming it would financially assist his family. Leo reveals that the images were sent to him to plant in the flat to facilitate this meeting, and if John murders Leo, his family will be compensated financially. Leo grabs John's gun and points it toward him before pressing the trigger. It looks like John was the one that shot him. John and Agatha flee the flat just as the cops arrive, including Danny, who suspects that the evidence at the crime scene is not what it appears. Danny expresses his concerns to Lamar, the director, and suggests that the precog's visions be evaluated. Danny shares Agatha's vision, which implies and Lively was murdered twice, rendering both visions irrational. Lamar argues that the suspected murderer was apprehended based on the visions of the other two precogs. However, experts believed that Agatha's second vision of Lively's death was simply an echo and dismissed it. Danny is murdered shortly after the conversation. While staying at his ex-wife's house, John and Laura talk about their missing son and his involvement in John's precrime work with Leo Crow. Laura questions why John is being trapped, and it suddenly dawns on John that it's all related to the unknown murderer of Lively. He realizes someone murdered Lively and wants him to stop investigating the crime. John concluded that the director, Lamar Burgess, murdered Lively and then demanded that John discontinue his research. Agatha utilizes her skills to track down their kid on a beach vacation. She begs John to run, but it's too late. Precrime officers arrive and arrest John for the murder of Leo Crow. Agatha is returned to the precrime office. Meanwhile, the director intends to host a press conference celebrating John's apprehension and the success of the precrime system. When Laura confronts the director about Lively's death, she thinks he may have been involved. The director denies any involvement and claims ignorance, claiming he has no idea how and drowned, but Laura reminds him that she never stated N's cause of death. Realizing his error, the director becomes concerned and suggests that Laura reschedule the discussion. Laura goes to the police station and wants to speak with John, flashing a revolver at one of the officers, who eventually lets her see him. She frees John, and he phones the director to inform him of the director's plan. Agatha, the most potent of the three precogs, was critical to the precrime program's success. However, Agatha's mother, and Lively, who had recovered from her heroin addiction, wanted her daughter back and constituted a threat to the program. To stop this, Lamar prepared for a murder attempt to be carried out. When precrime apprehended the suspect, Lamar disguised himself as the suspect and murdered and in the manner predicted by the precogs. As a result, Agatha's vision of her mother's death was brushed aside as a mere echo. The crowd is stunned during the press conference when Agatha's vision shows that the director is the one who murdered and Lively. The precogs foretell that John will be the victim, and the director will be the perpetrator of a murder. The director uses an ancient rifle he received as a gift to look for John. Finally, John and Lamar meet. John suggests that Lamar can either show precrime's effectiveness by murdering John and spending the rest of his life in prison. However, if Lamar does not murder John, the precrime program will fail. Lamar comes up with a third option by killing himself. The film finishes with the precrime program being discontinued, with the hope that a person will decide not to kill in the end. All criminals detained under the precrime program are instantly pardoned and freed, but local police units continue to monitor them for years. The three precogs are sent to a remote place where they can live peacefully, whereas John and his wife start living again, and she gets pregnant.